Our purpose is to care for patients, their families, and one another. This can only happen with purpose and clear direction. We can change lives for the better, each person and every experience. Welcome to the Ardent Service Excellence podcast. I'm Paul Kappelman, Ardent's Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. This podcast was created to keep you and your teams informed, inspired, and invigorated. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us as we dive in deeper to what this program means for you, sharing inspiring stories from our markets and keeping you informed of important updates. First, let's begin with our Connected Purpose story.
Hi, I'm Jim Hughes with your Connected Purpose story. May 29th, Gino Lujan suffered a massive heart attack and was airlifted from Santa Rosa, New Mexico, to the Heart Hospital of New Mexico at Loveless Medical Center. Upon arrival, he went into sudden cardiac arrest, was revived, and rushed to the cath lab, where he went into cardiac arrest a second time. He literally died twice. 2 stents were placed in Gino's heart, and he remained in an induced coma for 5 days. Once discharged home, he suffered a stroke and returned to Loveless Medical Center before being admitted to Loveless UNM Rehabilitation Hospital. Throughout his hospitalizations and overcoming obstacles, he continued to reassure the staff that he would thank them for taking such great care of him. And in a letter to the staff from his family, they wrote on his behalf, "While at the hospitals, he promised each and every one of you who worked so hard to keep him going that he wanted to have a thank you appreciation cookout in the fall. He and his family are happy to have the opportunity to fulfill that promise. We would very much appreciate your attendance so that we can say thank you for knowing your job, knowing it well, and for improving Gino's quality of life. But this is a small gesture on our end to acknowledge the high-quality teamwork, professionalism, and dedication that you all exhibit on a daily basis. Thank you."
Today, Ardent Chief Nursing Officer Laurie Bigham joins us to discuss purposeful hourly rounding and bedside shift report.
For our listeners who may not be clinical, what is purposeful hourly rounding and bedside shift report?
We define purposeful hourly rounding as when a staff member enters a patient room to assess patients' needs every hour. It is a great way for nurses and techs to connect with patients and families. Staff check to see if patients need anything, such as going to the bathroom, or if they need pain medication, or their possessions close to them so that they can be within reach.
And bedside shift report?
Bedside shift report is a handoff between staff at shift change that occurs at the patient's bedside to discuss the patient's plan of care. The purpose is to provide the most up-to-date information in front of the patient, such as what are their medications, how are their pain levels, what diet are they on. This allows an introduction of the nurse to the patient and provides another great way to connect with the patient and family. It also promotes collaboration by the staff and creates a cohesive approach to caring for both patients and their families.
How do purposeful hourly rounding and bedside shift report impact patient satisfaction scores?
Patient experience surveys have shown that if patients respond yes to purposeful hourly rounding, greater than 80% of the time, scores remain positive relative to any type of survey that the patient is provided with. It helps prevent patient falls, and by checking on patients often and engaging them in their care and their treatment, they are obviously more compliant in order to be able to call for help as needed. As shared earlier, the bedside shift report not only engages the patient and their family regarding their treatment, but it also provides for the most up-to-date information, and it helps prevent hospital-acquired infections. During the report, nurses can determine and assess if a patient no longer needs a Foley, an NG tube, or an IV line, and they can also review upcoming procedures to make sure that patients are fully prepared.
What would you say are the key drivers for executing a purposeful hourly round as well as an effective bedside shift report?
In order to execute and sustain purposeful hourly rounding and bedside shift report, it is very important that we hardwire three key components. The first is simulation-based training. Staff must be able to, quote, see themselves in action with immediate feedback and practice. The second key component is that the validators must also go through simulation training in order to be consistent in their observations. And then third, managers must continuously be coaching staff and providing positive, constructive feedback. Leaders are the key in this entire three-point process. Both bedside shift report and purposeful hourly rounding help our clinical staff to be more efficient and free them up for other tasks.
Laurie, what would you say are three pieces of wisdom you would offer nurse leaders wanting to improve patient satisfaction scores on their unit?
1, be consistent. 2, hold each other accountable. And 3, remember always that our patients and their care come first.
Hi, this is Samar Uthman-Craig with your Ardent Service Excellence 1-minute update. Here's Ardent Service Excellence by the numbers. 1,143 leaders attended a kickoff. 9,889 people have attended the Purpose course. 11,031 people have been trained in standard greeting. 6,681 have received purposeful hourly rounding training, and 6,528 people have received bedside shift report training. 287 leaders have completed senior leader rounding training, and hundreds of rounds have been completed. Those numbers are impressive, but what matters is these core requirements truly become the way we treat our patients, their families, and one another every day. This will take practice and time. Continue the great work and support one another.
Thank you, Samar. For more on how this program impacts patients and employees, Ardent Service Excellence Steering Committee member and Loveless Women's Hospital COO Dawn Schaubern joins us on the podcast today. She says senior leader rounding is making a notable difference in recognizing employees who take great care of patients.
When you get that thank you note that goes out from that senior leader to another team member, I have several team members that stop by and knock on my door and say, "Thank you for the thank you note." It's great to see that interconnectedness. It starts to break down those silos when you start thanking people outside of your department. Somebody recognizes what you do. We all want to be recognized for what we do, for the work we do, for changing somebody's life. But many times it goes unnoticed. So I think that's been the most impactful. The second thing is getting people to explain their why, talking about that. I have frontline leaders that have shared their why at town halls. And it's interesting to see them as they start to mature and grow into that leadership role, saying, this is why I did this.
Thank you to our guests who joined us today and shared their stories and insights. And thank you for listening. Ardent Service Excellence was designed for each and every one of us. We all have the power to make a difference and impact lives. Let's stay connected to our purpose of caring for others, our patients, their families, and one another.